It's one of those things where
I've seen Queen's Gambit, and I like that quite a bit.
That's a TV show, right?
Yeah. The Netflix show. Yeah. Cool. I'll frame you over there. Hey. Do you want to come for your chair?
Do I?
Yeah.
No. Well, this is pretty comfy.
Okay, cool. Sweet. All right. Well,
Got this baby for $65.
Nice. From Goodwill or something, or?
Just a local secondhand store here.
Nice. Well, thank you for doing this.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Do you want to introduce yourself to my viewers?
Sure. My name is Tyler Murphy, and I live in Billings, Montana, and I've got this little art gallery called Montana Gallery, and just celebrated our 8-year anniversary. I've been in this current space for about 5 years, and before that I was in Red Lodge, Montana for 3. And so I represent a couple different artists, notably Daniel Keyes, Kenneth Yaris from Kalispell, that's up in Montana here, and Richie Carter, also from Kalispell, and then I live in Billings, which is 8 hours from there. Daniel lives in Fresno, and that's nice. And I got to know Christian through my friend Albin Veselka, who I think he just interviewed couple podcasts back, episodes back.
Right. I don't know how long it's going to take me to edit these. But
okay.
Yeah. At some point in the past, I've interviewed Alvin, and it led to me being here.
Led to Ken, led to me.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's been great to get to know. I've just gotten to know Christian over the last 2 days, and it's been a pleasure to get to know you. And,
well, thank you.
And
it's
have you sleeping on my couch.
Nice. Well, I guess part of this, the whole point of this podcast, it's not to talk about technique, or it's not to talk about like. I hate
very good at talking about that.
Well, I hate talking about technique. I feel like it's covered so well by so many other people.
Yeah.
And for anyone listening, we're doing this at his gallery, and there's a truck outside that is very loud. So sorry if the audio is horrible.
Yeah, it's a refrigerator truck, and they're supplying all the food to the restaurants that are right next door. Hopefully it pulls out here pretty soon.
But yeah, so I guess the thing I want to talk about is, so to me it seems like you're obviously a painter yourself, but then you spend a lot of time creating this gallery and helping represent your friends and kind of building your own business. And,
yeah.
I guess I'm curious about that entire process, because I meet a lot of people who want to do projects like this.
Yeah.
They want to do things that are entrepreneurial and can make money, and also creative. And I'd imagine creating a gallery is something that's actually pretty difficult to do.
I did just kind of stumble into it, and maybe I do wish that more people would just give it a shot of opening a gallery, find a space where it's the cost of entry is low and the risk is low.
Yeah,
that's kind of how it happened for me. I found a space up in Red Lodge where it was month-to-month lease.
Yeah,
I could try it out for that first summer and just see what happened.
Right.
And then within like the first 2 weeks, the thing that happens when you put yourself out there as an artist and have a physical space that people can come to and actually start to meet you.
Yeah.
A lot of people in these small towns, they want places like this to exist.
Yeah.
And so there will be people who come out of the woodwork, seemingly,
right,
to support a small business.
Yeah.
But you have to be somewhere.
Right. And it starts with that first step of actually trying to do it. Right.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine that like the idea of starting a gallery is really scary, because you're putting up art that you don't know if it's going to sell. You're obviously running a business. You have to pay rent and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's all a bit of a leap of faith.
Yeah.
Right.
Very good.
Well, I guess the only last point I'd make about that was just the sales that I had. Of course, I was pretty young So I hadn't been painting and selling my work for very long, but definitely as soon as I had a physical location where people could come there, my own personal sales just, went way up. And it took, now I mostly sell a lot of paintings online, but that took 2 or 3 years before that happened.
Yeah.
So those first years, I was really dependent upon the small town community that I started the gallery in.
Right.
And that still continues to be the case here in Billings.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it seems to me like you represent your friends too. Like, you all run this business together in a sense where you guys have gallery shows and events all together. And
they're cleaning with me the day before. They're washing windows and hanging the paintings and putting up wall letters. It's a team effort. And people, like almost every day or every other day, I get an email or a phone call asking if I'd represent somebody's work.
Right.
And for me, you hit on it. Like I kind of only work with friends.
Yeah.
I want to work with people that will actually be in my real life.
Yeah.
That can show up to the gallery. That can. And then second to that would be, how's their work? And and how's their work? And how's this is Olivia.
Yeah. Okay.
She might be coming in.
Okay. Yeah.
It'd be cool if she came in just to say
absolutely.
hi.
Yeah.
She works with me on Fridays, but she's got a conference call that she's taking, I think, as soon as she gets here.
Yeah.
So now I got off track, but so friendship first, what their work is like, and then it really does help, to bring to the table people who are interested in your work.
Absolutely. Well, I found that with all these entrepreneurial endeavors, that there is like a lot of it is about interpersonal relationships. A lot of it is just like actually, people that you're friends with, and it's both discouraging for people that are trying to do it on their own and just starting out because they don't know where to go, but it's also encouraging that like to hear that you started just on your own. You didn't have an investor, you didn't have a group of like you rented out a space and then hung up your friends' paintings, and now it's this successful business that can help support you. And I think that's like the meat of how all this stuff really gets started is, it doesn't start out as, like Apple doesn't start out as Apple. It starts out as a company out of somebody's garage.
Yeah.
And then it eventually turns into this huge thing, right?
Yeah.
And for anyone that's like thinking about starting anything, the more I get into this stuff, the more I talk to people like you who are running their own businesses. A lot of it has to do with just going out and doing it, and not like you didn't wait for permission.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you didn't have any of your teachers that were like, you can't do this until you are, trained for 10 years or something.
Yeah. And I think that people overlook the opportunities that they already have. They see what a gallery like mine is doing, or before I had the gallery, I'd look at different galleries around the country and pine to, I wish that I could somehow be working with them.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, well, what do you already have at your disposal? What are the opportunities? Who are the friends? What's the businesses around you that you could ask to hang your work in?
Right.
Before you try to, go out and start working with a gallery halfway across the country or across the world.
Right. Yeah. And again, a lot of it has to do with just like, I don't know, like observing that it's been done and it's been done before in general, right? And to say that you couldn't do your own version of it is, I think it's unreasonable. It's like, if you can make cool paintings and have a space to put them, then people will come to buy them. And it's all about just having that fundamental hypothesis and just trying to execute and see if it actually works out. And again, I think it's like I see this in a lot in art education where it's like people have to wait for permission to do things,
Oh yeah.
and it's really, I guess it's like I understand why, because people want to get to a certain level, and you need standards and all that kind of stuff. But I think it goes too far in the sense where, if somebody wants to be a concept artist or a fine artist or whatever, their teachers in school will say, again, you can't do this until you have done these things. You can't, and I don't know. It's
that seems unfortunate.
yeah, right. It's like people are creative and they should just be able to do whatever they want.
Yeah. Learning the fundamentals, all of that is really helpful. But once you get a grasp on that, then it becomes, okay, now what are you going to say with this language that you've learned?
Right. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that just takes a long time, I think, to figure out, what do I like, what's worth saying,
Right.
What do I feel the world needs right now? So I think that takes a really long time.
Yeah.
To get a grasp on.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and I think it takes sacrifice too. It's like like when I see you walking around town, the way we've been walking around town, you have people just coming up to you and saying hello, and you having a conversation and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like it takes a lot of energy to be able to cultivate those kind of relationships and be that kind of person.
Sure.
It's like you might sacrifice part of your own social life in order. I mean, and not for the sake of your business, just for the sake of like following this vision, following this dream that you have.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine it causes you some amount of social anxiety sometimes, or it's like
Yeah, I think it has. It hasn't lately, but
yeah.
But I think it has. But it's hard for me to remember that right now.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Well, do you want to talk about any of the things that you've ran into that have potentially been discouraging things for starting this business?
I mean, every once in a while, I'll run into times where financially it's very tight, and rent is coming, and maybe I didn't manage, the money when I had it particularly well, and so there's been times, many times where I thought, okay, I'm done, ready to get out of this thing,
right?
But then I can't figure out what else to do with my life,
right.
So and one time I I called up a friend who has a landscaping business here in town, and I thought, okay, I'm done doing this artist gallery owner thing. I'm just going to be a hardworking, get some calluses on my hands, do some landscaping for a while, get a tan, get my body in shape. And anyways, I was out there for one day pulling weeds all by myself.
Yeah.
There was another guy who I was on the crew with who was around 100 yards away from me the whole day. And I just thought, that was like the loneliest day of just work.
Yeah.
Thinking, what am I doing? I have a gallery.
Right.
Why? Okay, let's figure out how to make the gallery work.
Absolutely.
And that's, I suppose, kind of from that point on, I started looking for different ways to incorporate more friends in to work with on a regular basis. So, like my friend Olivia, she works with me on Fridays. But then right after that, I also started going to a CrossFit gym. So we were talking earlier about kind of that need to be a part of a group that meets on a regular basis that you suffer alongside. And I have that with my friends Daniel and Richie and Ken.
Yeah.
But we get together. Like Ken and Richie live 8 hours away, like I said. So we get together maybe every 2 or 3 or 4 months. And that's, a really good time. But there's something about having that regular, maybe once a day or a couple times a week group that you're a part of, where you're working towards a common goal.
Right.
That I think more and more are that's becoming rare. our work is more individualized.
Absolutely, yeah. Well,
And
especially
that's
with
kind of
COVID too.
unfortunate.
Yeah. COVID is kind of
Yeah.
trying to wrench it a bunch of people.
Yeah.
People are working remotely and stuff. It's I don't know. It's like that's the thing that I found that's the hardest in any business endeavor is the lonely part of it.
Yeah.
It's to sit there and in spite of, you having this thing that is you really like you obviously love art and all that kind of stuff, but having no one to share it with or no validation for what to do. No,
Just like okay.
No, but I mean, you're like you don't have any business partners in this sense where
Sure.
it's like you're the person that's like here most of the time.
Yeah, I've been blessed with my friendship with Daniel Keys because he's like the closest that I've had to a business partner without him actually being a business partner.
Right.
But he's helped put in the railing.
Nice.
He helped me paint the walls here. He's put in more sweat equity than probably anybody other than myself.
Yeah.
Into this place.
Right. Well, and I think it's like the collective suffering with, again, starting a business, even if it's a really good idea, is really scary. Because you're going to be spending a lot of time just like. I've noticed this where it's like, your friends might be working at banks or they have these secure jobs and they seem to be making good money, and you're here, doing something that it doesn't seem as directly valuable, but even though I think it is incredibly valuable, it's like you have to decide that it is valuable, you kind of have to have faith in the business and your ideas and stuff. I was talking to Ken about this where we were talking about like the, difficulty of being somebody like a nurse or a banker or a postman or something versus being an artist. And people, we were talking about how it's actually potentially a lot harder to be an artist, and even though you have a lot more freedom and stuff, because it's harder to be an artist because you're only selling your ideas, right? And if your ideas aren't working out, then there's something personal that could be interpreted. Whereas if you're a nurse or a banker or something, and something doesn't work out, the work is outside yourself a lot of the time. It's not your ideas necessarily; it's your labor and your skills.
Yeah.
And that if you fail at that, it's like, oh, the job market's bad. If you fail as an artist, you could say I'm a bad person. I'm a and it's
nobody likes me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I relish certain days where the work feels like I just it's like when there's menial tasks, like where there's no reinvention of the wheel.
Right.
So days where I handwrite out 300 note cards to send to past collectors.
Yeah.
Those are great days.
Right.
There's I could put on music and just go.
Yeah.
And the other days, there is a lot of sitting around, I think, as an artist, at least for me.
Yeah.
Thinking, and contemplating what's the next right thing to do.
Yeah.
But you have to be really careful not to get so caught up in just it's so easy to just sit around and think and talk and think and talk and think and talk and never actually do anything.
Yeah.
Like at some point, we as artists have to roll up our sleeves and actually put paint on the canvas.
Right.
Oh, that's it. Gabe, I am in the gallery. We're just recording a podcast, and I locked the door, and Olivia's here. She doesn't. Okay. I have to unlock the door real quick for Olivia. We're just recording a podcast. So, but I wanted Olivia to come up and say hi, if she has. Sorry. So is that all rolling or?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Part of the process.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. You are running a business.
Hi. Do you want to come up and say hi to the millions and millions of
Billions,
podcast listeners and viewers?
Trillions.
Cool. This is my friend Christian.
Hey,
This is
Christian.
Olivia.
Nice
Olivia
to meet you.
works with me here.
Yeah.
And this is
My podcast.
Oh, it's on right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Hi.
Hi.
Awesome. Well,
will you really quick tell kind of what you do here at the gallery?
yeah, so I work with Tyler doing administration kind of tasks.
Yeah.
I help keep him accountable to getting things achieved because Tyler is an artist / gallery owner. It's like he wants to paint and he's got stuff to do, and so I just help him get his stuff done essentially. And I also run events at the
Nice.
gallery. So
Cool.
She got married in here.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow. Crazy.
there
Awesome.
you go.
Super cool. It's good to meet you.
Yeah, could you take your call on that side?
Yeah.
Does that work?
Sure thing.
Okay.
But yeah, with all this stuff, it's like those days when you know what to do are really good because you have a binary success and failure thing,
Yeah.
And sometimes having that is really having that every day can be kind of tedious. Like if you're a grocery bagger or you're filing stuff for a bit like a real estate company, that stuff can be very tedious. But sometimes there's a comfort in it where if you write out 300 thank you cards, you've done it. You've lived a successful day.
Uh-huh.
On days where it's like you don't have any thank you cards to write, or you don't everything is done, it might seem kind of like what do I do next? Like what's important?
Yeah.
Maybe there's nothing, but maybe there's some really important way you could be growing your business.
Yeah.
And it's trying to find that balance of pursuing one business growth and embracing the fact that you are a business owner and you can do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's the thing I'm trying to find. It's like a.
Do you feel like you are you able to kind of put into words what you feel is important?
Yeah, I think it's meaning. I think it's well, like you were saying before. It's this podcast episode is not ideal in terms of how I'm recording it. It's like I have a couple of cameras that they're dead and the batteries. I guess they were here, so I couldn't charge them.
Yeah.
And then there's a truck outside and it's loud. And,
Interruptions.
Calls. Oh yeah. Well, but it's it's not ideal, but it's also it's better to do it in spite of the of the limitations and all that kind of stuff, rather than not to do it at all.
Okay.
And having that making that decision to do it and have it be not ideal and actually getting it done versus
Sometimes it's even when I watch things or listen to things, it's the imperfections that make me love the thing all the more.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
That's what I say about all my paintings.
Yeah. Right. Well, but I mean, it's corny, but I think it's true. It's it's like if everyone was a brilliant representational painter and could paint exactly what they could see really well, and you wouldn't have Van Gogh, you wouldn't have a ton of artists. And it's the fact that there are mistakes and there are imperfections, I think actually does add character to it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not recording in the van right now because I wanted to, actually show people your gallery, and stuff.
Yeah.
Just having that ability to, switch it between both is really it's really nice.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
Just looking for meaning.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's easy to look at something like painting or any kind of entrepreneurial, any kind of endeavor that is scary as a waste of time because you could fail, right? It's painting. One way of looking at painting is just a bunch of goop, a bunch of oil on a canvas, and that's it. or it's this like representation of somebody's soul and somebody's like what they truly love. And
Sure.
I think it's a combination of both at once. It's like it's really what you decide it is, and I think it's really brave to decide that a painting is valuable, because it's not like as inherently useful as something like a shovel, but like literally, it's like you can use a shovel to dig a hole, right?
Yeah.
But a painting, it's like it does something deeper for somebody than just a shovel can ever do.
Yeah, I think you said the other night that it's like I don't know if you use this word, but it communicates an idea, right? So it's a container in some sense. It maybe is a jumping off point.
Right.
That's how I feel about, like I've got a drawing of my grandpa there.
Yeah.
And at my home, I have a bookshelf that has a picture of where my grandma grew up. And then right next to it, I've got another drawing of my grandpa that I did.
Yeah.
And a gift that my brother gave me. It's just a thumb sticking up. It's a little bronze statue.
Yeah.
And then something from my dad. So it's kind of like that whole area, for me, I can sit on my couch and just be transported to thinking about times with my grandpa, thinking about times with my grandma. And that is one of the coolest things about painting. I think that also, like people go to, say, a place like Glacier National Park, and they're sitting there in front of it, and there's almost a too muchness to a place like that where you're overwhelmed by it, and yet you want to somehow encapsulate this and hold on to the experience, but without the disgusting necessity of actually going there.
Oh yeah,
and actually being there.
Well, and it's strange. It's like I've heard a lot of people talk about this, where people will go from all over the world to go to the Louvre, right? They'll spend $10,000 to go to Paris to go to the Louvre.
Yeah.
It's like, what are they really doing when they go there? It's like they're going and looking at these pictures. But it's like you can look at those pictures online. So like, why is it important to be there in person? Why is it important for there to be an actual physical representation of this thing?
Yeah.
When you think about it that way, it's like these people are having this almost like religious experience when they go, and they go from Afghanistan to Paris, or they go from China to Paris, or wherever. It's like, why is that important?
Yeah.
And it's like something like the Mona Lisa represents way more than just like being a portrait of a woman.
Yeah.
It represents like Leonardo da Vinci, hundreds of years of history, and it's all encapsulated in this singular object.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, and it's weird. It's cool.
Did you follow very closely that NFT that got sold? For whatever it was,
$70 million.
Yeah. Or something. I listened to I think it was a Planet Money podcast on that, and I found it interesting the way they talked about it, and it just helped me to kind of understand value and the value of art, how that is determined. So much of it is determined by the belief that other people believe that something's valuable.
Absolutely.
I think the stock market pretty much works that way too.
Well, I think that's what value is fundamentally. And when you break down what money is, it's like money. The only thing a money is just tangible time. It's like you go and work for picking wheat for an hour, and a farmer will give you $10 as a representation for how much value you brought to him. And when you look at something like a painting, it's like when a painting is worth $100 million, it's like X amount of hours of tangible time that this represents.
Yeah.
And like when you do a painting, for example, and you sell it to somebody, it's like it actually took you time to create that painting. So in a sense, you're selling literally a part of yourself. You're selling a little piece of who you are to this other person. And I think that value is this incredibly cryptic, weird thing where it's like, it's like going. You can go to the store and get a water bottle, right? But a water bottle at Disneyland is like $6. It's like, why is that? It's all just about how we see, the value of something, how much it's actually being worth.
I wonder if that's, in that case, value also is somewhat driven by, and this is actually maybe something that we need to be on the lookout for as Amazon and these different big tech companies are basically creating, what is it called, an
Oligarch?
an oligarchy.
Yeah.
Because when that happens, then it means that there's less competition across, and so then they can determine the price of things. So when you're at Disney World,
right,
you have no choice but to buy from Disney.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I found that even though I disagree with a lot of Amazon's business practices, it's like when I go to Barnes and Noble or a bookstore, I'll look at the price of the book and then compare it to what it is on Amazon, and it's always cheaper on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't know, like the whole value thing is extremely strange. It's like I don't think anything inherently holds any value. It is really just about how we decide as a whole that something is worth this much.
Yeah.
And again, it's part of the reason why I'm so curious about why paintings are so valuable, is because it's all just about like creating that persona or creating that character or creating that story of this being a representation of something that's actually valuable. Excuse me. Something that's actually valuable.
So in my experience, I mean, right after I listened to that Planet Money episode, I was then at this art show where I sold most of the paintings that I took to it.
Yeah. And
there was a piece there that was a 20 by 30, and I sold it for $3,000. I had two that were that size, and they were both $3,000. Well, this other art dealer came up to me and said, "How much is that?" He's like, "I would have bought that if it was still available." And I said, and he goes, "How much is that?" I said, "Well, I sold it for $3,000." He goes, "No, I would have thought that would be like $6,500."
Yeah.
So having a good amount of sales back to back to back, and then having another art dealer kind of infuse value through what he said,
right,
to me, that actually helps me then confidently stand by my work.
Absolutely.
And not need to negotiate on the price.
Right.
So that in some ways, like, it's kind of this, it's like a momentum thing too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, and I think a big part of it is like, we've been talking about this a little bit, but I think a big part of all this stuff is how you feel about yourself. Like, do you feel like you're somebody that can sell a painting for $100,000?
Mm-hmm.
If the answer is yes, you're probably a lot more likely to be able to sell a painting for $100,000. I think I meet so many poor, really talented artists, and I'm always curious, like, why are you willing to sell me one of your drawings or paintings for $20, or $100, or it's like, like my perception of those drawings or paintings, it's like I would have bought that for $1,000. I would have bought that for, like, if I could afford it, I would have bought it for $10,000. And so much of it has to do with the outward, like how people see you, it's how you see yourself.
Sure.
And again, if you were doing these like really ambitious gallery shows, like just trying to sell paintings for $50,000, $100,000, you actually might be successful at it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it's like I don't know if you even want to do that. Because there are a lot of other things that go along with selling that kind of artwork for that much. But it's also like how much is success just like asking for it, and actually like putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
Probably more than we would care to admit.
Yeah.
I think. I was talking to a friend of mine. He's been a successful entrepreneur, and he was telling me it's like it all really depends on the scale you want to operate at. Like, it takes as much work to start a restaurant as it does like a $100 million company. Starting a restaurant is really hard because you have to manage people, you have to buy food, you have to throw out food, you have to like get FDA regulation stuff. Deal with customers. Whereas like you actually might have to do less work for starting something like Facebook. And it's like yeah, I think it comes down to like, why would you, like you there are benefits to starting a restaurant than starting Facebook, because Facebook is way bigger, lots of moving parts. Your life becomes like way more complex.
Yeah.
Whereas,
So then it seems to me like it does come back to maybe what have you been kind of uniquely situated through the circumstances of your life?
Yeah.
What opportunities are there? Back to the meaning thing. Have you ever read Viktor Frankl?
Yeah.
Man's Search for Meaning?
Absolutely.
So my takeaway from that was one of the things that he would, when people around him were about to give up, I think the question that he would kind of ask, or he'd try to get them to think about the people in their life that only they could be to that person.
Yeah.
Only Christian, only you can be Christian to your dad.
Yeah.
You are uniquely situated in your life to be the son of your father.
Yeah.
Same also with, these people in the concentration camp. There were, I forget exactly the story, but there was just some man who, I think he got him to think about his daughter and like, she needs you to get through this because only you can be her father.
Yeah.
And so I kind of think about that with the gallery and with my position, how I'm uniquely situated here in Billings. What role can I play in downtown Billings as an artist, as a gallery owner, that only Tyler Murphy can do?
Yeah, right. Well, and I think it takes a lot of bravery to do that, because it's like by accepting that you're Tyler Murphy, the gallery owner, you're foregoing being Tyler Murphy, the rock star, or the the billionaire banker guy, or the or the landscaper. It's like you're giving up all these things, and it's like, I think that's the scary part, is like embracing who you are, embracing like what your faults are, what you're what you're good at, and really trying to like be who you are. Is it like a question that I ask everybody is like, would you be doing exactly the same thing right now if you had $1 billion, right? And if the answer is no, and it's completely rhetorical, if the answer is no, then you should probably change what you're doing. And if you had $1 billion, you probably wouldn't go and start an oil company.
Sure.
You might actually just make a really badass gallery. You might like make this into like a museum where you go, like, you're not focused on selling paintings. It's just you make the most beautiful museum that Billings has ever seen. And it's like you go and buy masterwork paintings, and you have classes there, and you have like you make it something that's like truly beautiful. But it wouldn't be necessarily about making money. And if you had $1 billion, there would still be things that you'd be anxious about. It's like those things aren't solved by money. When I started thinking about things that way, I kind of became like, I still hope I would live in a van if I had $1 billion.
Okay.
I still, I would do podcasts like this. Just like as janky as it is right now. Even if I had $1 billion. And I hope, I hope to be doing things that I would still be doing if I had essentially infinite money.
I think I will always be somebody who revolves around a project. A project at a given time, and sometimes the projects don't make any sense on a financial level. But enough of them do. And that keeps it going. But I guess the financial payoffs of it maybe aren't the first driving factor of it. It's more, do I actually want to do this?
It's something way deeper than the money. I think the money is just like a tool, right? It's like again, if you like, the difference between you having $1 million and $1 billion might be actually very insignificant. It's like you might just do exactly what you're doing. It's just you would like live a little bit more comfortably. And $1 million is a lot less than $1 billion. And I don't know. It's like again, going back to the meaning thing. It's like, even if you had $1 billion, there are things that at a certain scale that I wouldn't touch because it's not part of who I am. Like I wouldn't try and start a space company. I wouldn't try and like solve world hunger necessarily. I would try and do. Well, I mean, I would try. I would cause more world hunger. But,
Okay.
No, but I would, do things that I know I can actually do based on my previous experience. And, I know that I can do certain things, and trying to like go from doing what I normally do to being at a crazy scale, I would actually probably fail. Yeah, I wouldn't really know what it meant. What I was doing.
Yeah. I think in life I am happiest, and this is kind of abstract but I think I'm happiest when I feel and am doing what I internally believe that I'm called to, when I'm externally doing what I internally believe I'm called to do as a person.
Right.
When I line those things up, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, and it's I don't know. No matter how much money you have, no matter how much how many things that you've done that you're proud of, you're still going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the most important thing is like to do things that are like knowing if you died tomorrow, knowing that you at least gave it a shot at doing stuff that you really cared about. I think that's the most important thing. Like being able to sleep at night with the contribution that you've made to, like who you are, right?
Yeah.
And for me, it's been strange. Like I can be kind of a nihilist sometimes, and it's like it's strange for me to go to so many different places, whether it's Phoenix or Grand Canyon or Salt Lake City or Sketchy, Montana, and I go to coffee shops and I've seen dozens and dozens of coffee shops that are very, very similar. They also have Danishes and breakfast burritos and muffins and stuff, and coffee, and people are hanging out. And I look at that and I'm like, this is not unique. This is like, I don't know if this matters, but but that's the nihilistic negative side of me. But then the more positive side of me is like, wow, it's incredibly beautiful that hundreds or thousands of places like this can exist, where people go and they feel, like in spite of it just being coffee, in spite of it just being a muffin, it does matter to people that they're, directly to their own lives.
Yeah.
And like operating in a larger scale doesn't necessarily mean you're going to live a more meaningful life. It's like if you were selling paintings for $1 million, I don't know if that would make you feel happier.
Right. Yeah.
And it's trying to get to a point where you're embracing that right now is the place you want to be most. Not like 5 years ago, not 10 years from now. It's like right this second.
Yeah. Well, I definitely have been spoiled by having Olivia here to work with me, and since that's happened, it's like, well, I don't know that I'll ever go back to just working by myself. I think that I'll always want, because she actually might be taking another job and possibly moving to California in a couple months. And if that happens, I'd be looking to have somebody work with me 1 or 2 days a week.
Yeah, well, if anyone's listening that wants to work with Tyler.
Oh, no.
Okay. Yeah.
No. Yeah, I have another friend in mind.
Okay, got it.
I only work with friends, remember?
Okay, yeah. Okay, got it. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So what kind? What's next for you?
In terms of my grand scale plans, or in terms of like what?
Yeah, I guess I know kind of what life is going to look like for you for the next couple days and weeks and probably months, maybe on the road.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you have a sense of where things might go after that?
Yeah. I think I'm gonna head back to San Diego. Start trying to do more of these podcasts in California. Actually, more friend. I don't know, just pursuing meaning, doing things that I think are important.
Yeah.
Things that I care about. It changes so quickly.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can plan 6 months ahead.
Yeah.
I think it's like I'm at a stage in my life where I'm trying to discover what it means to be like a human being. It sounds corny and cheesy when I say it that way, but it's like what does it mean to be like, a young person that's like starting their career, or what does it mean to like be somebody who can like start a family or start a business, or kind of deciding what path I want to go down.
Yeah.
And this trip is a big part of finding out whatever that means to me.
Cool. I've really seen amongst friends of mine and some of my friends who had children at a young age and then didn't. What comes to mind is one friend who's a single mom. She doesn't struggle with meaning.
Yeah, right.
She has
all the meaning she wants. Yeah.
Well, whether she wants it or not, she gets it.
Right.
So meaning, I think, does come through service to others.
Yeah.
Blessing others with something like a meal, or hopefully a beautiful space. I think that's what we're trying to do as artists, is create things that just make a space a little bit better.
Absolutely.
And be comfortable and welcoming.
Right.
And a place where people feel, oh yeah, I belong here.
Right. And doing it in whatever small way you can, and have it still be incredibly meaningful.
Yeah.
I was at a dog park a couple months ago, and I saw dogs playing with sticks. And those dogs playing with those sticks, that was the most meaningful thing to those dogs on the planet. Right?
Yeah.
And it's like watching another person or animal or whatever do something and they're completely engaged is always, it's strange to see that as an observer, because it's like, like there is world hunger, there is war, there is famine, there is disease.
Yeah. But you don't care about any of those things.
No, yeah, those people, I don't care at all. No, but it's like it's hard to like. I think this is where nihilism can come in, or some sort of like negative way of like thinking about that stuff. Is like, I'm a gallery owner, I'm not contributing to world hunger, I'm not contributing to solving some horrible disease. My life is meaningless, right? And I think that's the negative. That's the wrong way to think about it. Again, it's like going back to the scale issue. It's like, would you thinking about those things would it actually solve the problem? Probably not. And maybe it actually takes away from the world. Maybe it feeds your ego, because you get to feel good about yourself. Like, you get to be kind of a martyr. It's like,
if you are working to solve those things.
No. If you're like talking yourself into nihilism and being like, my life is meaningless because I'm not solving those things, but you're not doing anything anyways.
Oh yeah, no, that's
horrible.
Yeah,
that's like worse than not doing anything.
Yeah,
and it's like you're robbing the world of your contribution by like not having your gallery. And to say that you're not contributing to the greater whole of humanity by not having a gallery I think is incorrect. It's like again, it's like the whole meaning thing. It's to like, no matter how like relative to the rest of the universe, we're as inconsequential as an ant, right? And an ant is just like nothing, right? But to everything else, it's we're nothing, And the more you zoom out, the more meaningless it becomes. I think that's the problem with scale, is that the more success you get, and the more scale you have, the more you need to feel validated in yourself, and the more you need to feel any sort of meaning. It's like, I don't know if Elon Musk would feel good if he started, just like a restaurant or something. I think there's something in his personality that requires him to be a great person.
Yeah.
And I think that in a sense is a curse, because like maybe when you're a great person, you can't sit down and appreciate, like you can't go and sit and like do a painting, you can't go and sit around and like appreciate a tree because you're worried about sending rockets to space or something.
Yeah. I guess it's hard for me to know, or I have no idea how Elon feels about himself and his work and all that, and I don't really know how any other person feels ultimately about themselves and their work. But I have been fortunate to witness here in the gallery in different ways. But one experience that comes to mind, this woman came in and she saw this painting that I made, and she came up to me with tears in her eyes and was just like, tell me about this piece.
Right.
And it somehow triggered like just this flood of memories and emotions for her. And she was like, can I just get a chair, and do you mind if I just sit here? And she sat there for like 3 or 4 hours in one day just looking at that piece, like crying. And then her son ended up buying it for her. It was kind of a larger piece. Yeah. And like that astonishes me that art can do that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I've had any experience like that myself. I've read about, there's a guy named Henry Nouwen, who wrote this book called The Prodigal Son, and he in the first couple chapters writes about his experience of coming across Rembrandt's depiction of the son coming home to the father, the prodigal. And the way he wrote about it was, when I was witnessing what was happening to her, I was like, and I actually had that book, and I was like, you should read this.
Yeah, right.
To kind of help put words to this experience that you're having.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and again, it's like, the cynical side of people in general might be like, art is a waste of time. Everyone should be an engineer. Everyone should be like a doctor. Everyone should be a lawyer. Obviously, that's not the case. I think, again, I think that art is important. Art is really, it has driven so much of why we do things in the first place. To go around to different, even different parts of the country in the United States, aesthetically, Phoenix looks entirely different from some place like Salt Lake City to New York to Denver, and like they all represent like some character. It's like a lot of houses in Phoenix are clay houses, and they have like cacti out front, and you have like a bull skull, like a cow skull or something.
Okay.
Lying somewhere. Whereas like if you go to Denver, you might have just like green grass, and they'll have like a bike out front, or they'll have like some outdoorsy stuff. Or if you go to New York, an apartment might look very modern. And I think all of those different aesthetics, they represent a certain ideal. It's like a cowboy or a businessman, or scientist, or like an outdoorsy, explorer kind of person.
Yeah.
And it's weird. Again, it's weird how you can observe those like grand scale, like like humanity as a whole in Phoenix decided that pursuing that ideal as an aesthetic, was worth billions of dollars in investment. So like it'd be more efficient if every building was just like a concrete square.
The problem with that is, and that was the ideal for so many architects back in the early 1900s.
Yeah.
Now all their buildings are the slums.
Yeah. Right.
So they back then it was what they said, function follows form.
Yeah.
The problem is if you always put function ahead of form, once that function is no longer needed,
right?
The building can't adapt.
Yeah.
In the case of a building.
Yeah.
That's where I don't know. Have you ever watched? Oh gosh, I can't think of his name right now. But he walks around. He's this English philosopher guy. He just died like a year ago. Does a thing on why beauty matters. If you look up that on YouTube.
Yeah.
A lot of artists love this guy because he's kind of a champion for beauty.
Yeah.
But he's walking around in these different neighborhoods, and it's all these turn of the century, perfectly straight angles. Everything's a cube.
Yeah.
Apartments. And he comes around to this one place that is it's a coffee shop,
right?
But the building itself was a blacksmith shop 100 years ago. It was a livery. It was all these different businesses, but because the form was not put secondary to the function of the building,
right,
but worked in tandem with it,
right,
it could adapt over the years. But if you put function first, you'll have useless buildings.
Right.
Hey guys, towards the end of the podcast, we got truck is moving.
The truck is leaving now.
That's a pretty sound.
Yeah.
That's what's so sad to me walking around here in Billings. There are these, buildings that were built. Oh, come on. Now it's backing up. No.
This is the truck.
So
Yeah. And again,
there are all these buildings that sit empty here in Billings, and they're just an eyesore.
Right.
And it kind of makes me mad.
it's a bummer, right?
Because especially when you go to a place like Venice, and it's just a joy to walk around that city, and you're constantly being pulled along and encouraged to walk.
Yeah, right.
To not, well, you can't get in a car there, but
to
here
engage,
in Billings,
too.
we're all about
Right.
like all the one ways here. I was telling Christian, they're starting to change the one ways back to two ways, and that's hopefully going to help businesses. Everything was changed from two ways to one ways back in the 60s and 70s to get people to the West End here in Billings, where the mall was, where all of these businesses that were right here in the heart of Billings for years and years. Then they all decided, I think the mall fad happened everywhere, and all these downtowns, these streets got converted into one ways to help move traffic quicker. And then you have these downtowns that become run down and that, so, but downtowns everywhere being revitalized.
Yeah. Cool coffee shops and bookstores, and and again, it's always more efficient to buy a book off Amazon, but there's something about being in a bookstore.
Yeah.
Getting an old paper leather-bound book and stuff. And, it's there's when you buy a leather-bound book, there's something more meaningful to that book than if it were just like another 10,000 print run copy of something.
Yeah.
Represents a history, and it's like you look at people who signed the book before you had it and stuff. And, like if I had a leather bound copy of Lord of the Rings signed by Tolkien, and that would be an incredibly meaningful. That might be like a $50,000 book or something. And it's objectively it's just a hunk of paper. My dad's worked in comics for a long time. He was feeling particularly nihilistic and pessimistic about his job one day, and he's like, technically I'm just a glorified paper salesman, which is like, when you break.
So that's Jim from The Office.
Yeah, well, and it's like when you objectively break down like what a comic book salesman is. Like you're selling paper. Obviously it's like a comic book is art and stuff, but it's like it's just a way of buying paper for cheaper and marking it up a bunch. Which is like true in a sense, but also not.
Yeah. Sometimes, I guess I could start to think that way. Just in a good way, though. It's like, wow, I'm taking these materials from the earth and somehow combining them and running them through my understanding
filter,
of
yeah.
things, and
Creating meaning out of nothing, right?
yeah, I suppose.
Anyways, I think we should probably wrap this up.
Sounds good.
Is there any closing thoughts? How should people follow you?
Just Montana Gallery on Instagram. My own Instagram is just Tyler Murphy Art. MontanaGallery.net. That's about it.
Cool. Well, thank you for doing this. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
That's good stuff.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Cool.